The Nets have established a new big three with the acquisition of James Harden, but can this group get it done? I'm Madeline Burke for Sports Illustrated alongside Howard Beck and Ben Pickman. And guys, Brooklyn acquired Harden at the expense of a lot of future capital, but how much pressure is on the Nets to get it done now?
Well, it's not as if the Nets didn't already have a lot of pressure, of course. Once you bring in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, that pressure is there, and they were rightfully among the favorites to win it all. But this amps it up by at least tenfold because now you have the only big three. The big three era had ended in the NBA. Well, it's back, and they have the only standing big three with Harden, Durant, and Kyrie. But some key notations and caveats on this. These three guys can all be free agents in just 2 years from now. So the time to get it done is now. Durant is 32, and of course, coming off that Achilles injury. Harden is 31. Kyrie, a little younger, still not 30 yet, but still, these guys have to win it now. And the Nets need them to win it all now because if this thing for some reason implodes, if they crash and burn, if they even just fall short of any championships at all, even a couple of finals appearances with no title will be considered a disaster because they gave up three future first round picks and four pick swaps, taking them all the way out to 2027. And so the future is fully mortgaged and it's all about the present. They have to get it done.
Right, and you only make this trade because you think that James Harden makes you better in the short term, right? There's no other reason that you would mortgage all your future assets and everything that's going to come down the road unless you think that James Harden improves your chances of winning a title in the short term. Now, on 538, if you go to their projections, you can see that they currently have the Brooklyn Nets giving them a 15% chance of winning the NBA championship. That's second behind the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's an improvement on what they were before this trade. Now, 15% chance that they will means an 85% chance that they don't, but let me tell you something. If they don't win it, as Howard alluded, this is a disastrous trade, right? And it's not just necessarily that they have to win this year, because I do think we might have some leeway if they play the Lakers in the final, say, and fall short, but they do need to win an NBA championship with this new big three. And if you look at the Nets franchise as a whole, this is a franchise that has kind of meandered throughout its history, right? They started out in Teaneck, New Jersey. They moved to Long Island. They've played on different parts of the state of New Jersey, Newark, Piscataway, East Rutherford, right? And they finally settled in Brooklyn. They still haven't won a championship since their ABA days in the mid 1970s. If they don't win one now, it's certainly going to be a disappointment for all of their fans and the team alike.
Yeah, they put all their chips in. And Howard, as you mentioned, James Harden's 32 years old, which is, on the older side for an NBA player. He's my age, but I'm not playing in the NBA. And the last time the Nets brought in an older superstar, well, it was two of them, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. And remember, that did not exactly go well. The Celtics, they built a contender with the assets that they acquired in that deal. And the Nets did not exactly get where they wanted to go. And the window is small. These guys will be free agents in 2 years. You got 2 years to get this done. But also another thing about this big three, there is a lot of personality in this big three. Kyrie Irving, we know those stories. Kevin Durant, we know this deal. James Harden, just look at how he got here. And first-year head coach Steve Nash going to be dealing with a lot of personality. Howard, what do you think? How does Steve Nash handle this?
Yeah, this is a really tall order for a rookie head coach. But he does have a strong staff, right? Mike D'Antoni is there with all of his experience, including, of course, key years as James Harden's head coach in Houston. You've got Jacques Vaughn, Ime Udoka. It's an experienced staff that Nash can lean on. But ultimately, when you're the head coach, it does all fall on you. And, Nash is, I think, a somewhat lower key personality, but he does walk into the room with a lot of credibility because he was a two-time MVP. He's got one more regular season MVP award than Durant does. So I do think that it's a lot on Nash. And I do think it's a challenge, and I don't want to minimize that at all. But I think he's got the strength of great communication skills. He's got the high emotional quotient, the high emotional IQ. He's a guy who relates to people, and I do think that if anybody can reach these three stars simultaneously, figure out a way to get them to mesh, I think Nash has the ability to do that. But it is a tall order.
And I think by extension, a lot will be placed on Sean Marks going forward, right? Because I think what this trade also did is it shed Brooklyn of a lot of their assets, right? A lot of their depth is now gone, and that's part of the price you pay for getting James Harden. And so it will be interesting to watch if the Brooklyn Nets go out and try and use, the buyout market effectively or make other lower level deals to try and bulk up their roster, right? Defensively, that's one of the issues and places where Nash is going to have to devote a lot of his attention, because I think there are a lot of questions about the Brooklyn Nets on the defensive end of the floor. Do they acquire another center? Someone, maybe an improvement on DeAndre Jordan, or do they look for more perimeter wings? Because right now, a lot is going to be placed on Kevin Durant's shoulders on the defensive end of the floor. Now, he's up to the task and more than capable, but it's an offensive team first and a ton of offensive firepower. But I think Marks might have to go out and make some moves to stock up and improve on the defensive end as well.
Yeah, Steve Nash also was an incredibly talented NBA player, but this is his first coaching role. I mean, we saw how Jason Kidd, an incredibly talented NBA player, struggled transitioning to coaching that first time he did it. This is a big order for Steve Nash, but you're right. He does have a great staff around him. He's got, half of that Suns team, that 7 seconds or less Suns team around him, and could build something special with this team. And I think he's got the demeanor to do it. Looking forward to seeing how this all unfolds. Guys, thanks so much for the insight, as always. And for more, continue to check out SI.com.